I'm glad you brought up the why, and we're quickly coming up on time here. But I do want to maybe dig into this as the last kind of question that we explore a little bit. It's such a valuable question, that why. But I think oftentimes, whether it's personality types that tend to become analysts, or maybe we feel like imposters, maybe whatever the explanation is, oftentimes I think we see our job as doers, like we're given a spec and it's like, okay, go do this, and we don't feel it's our job, or we don't feel confident in ourselves to ask the question, but why? And so what ends up happening, and kind of pulling this back to the cost of bad data, is we don't ask why. We may want to know, but for whatever reason we don't dive into it, and we just build to the spec we were handed, making a lot of assumptions to get there, and we inadvertently end up creating a lot of quote bad data. So I'm going to ask you the why. Why do you think that is, that as analysts, and it's not all analysts, but a big percentage of the population doesn't think they need to ask that question, or doesn't feel comfortable asking that question? Okay, well, why are you asking that? Right? Not as a
I,
pushback, but as a way to better
yeah,
understand what you're asking, so we can give you what you need.
yeah, it's great that you say not as a pushback because I think people see it as a negative when you ask why. It's like a little kid, right? Why? And you're like, oh my God, kid, you're driving me nuts. You want to help them understand, right? You don't just ignore it. Well, because I said so. Well, there you go. There's that happening from your manager and from the director, and um, I think it just they're not empowered. They're afraid. They're they're maybe new into the company, and well, this person's been here 5 years, they know what they're doing. But if you have some, like, something tingling, your spider senses are tingling, and you have a question you want to ask, or you want to know a little bit more about what they're asking, I don't think it's any harm to do that. But I think it comes with experience, unfortunately, being able to push back, being able to say no, being able to say, why don't we wait on that and let's see what comes out of this thing first before we jump ahead of ourselves? Or, you know what I mean? And like you talked about cost of data, that's what's happening when we don't ask why. So you're my marketing stakeholder. You ask me for something, I go and get it based on what I understand you're asking for. Here you go. No, that's not what I was looking for. We actually wanted this. Okay. Goes back to me. Okay, here you go. This is what you wanted. And we've even done this when we were consulting together. Like, no, actually, why don't we think about it this way? It's like, that's great. And not saying that, our process was the same as this, but when you have that back and forth iteration, the cost of running those queries, the cost of pulling that data again, pulling it in a different way, pulling longer ranges of dates, that's all cost. And I think if you get down to the very basic level of what the customer's looking for first, you might have one or two, maybe three iterations, and you're done, rather than five or six, and then it's a month later and you're like, we don't have an answer yet.
Yeah.
So,
No, such great insights. Uh,